Okay, so there is a massive, radical shift happening right under our noses. For the last couple of years, we've basically viewed artificial intelligence as a really fancy tool, right? Like a superpowered calculator or a tireless intern that just does what we ask. But our relationship with AI is fundamentally changing. It's shifting from simple tool use into something much deeper, much more psychological, and honestly, surprisingly biological. In this explainer, we're going to dive into the hard data and the evolutionary science that suggests we aren't just using AI anymore, we're actually beginning to worship it.
I know it sounds a little extreme. Why would we start treating an algorithm like a literal god? But if you look closely at how people are interacting with language models today, our behavior is getting downright weird. We are rapidly moving away from the realm of normal technology and stepping straight into the realm of faith.
Think back to just a year or two ago. We used to approach AI with straight-up commands. You type in a prompt to summarize an email or fix a bug in your code. It was totally transactional. Then, especially in the AI image generation communities, we started treating prompts almost like spells, these secret, highly specific strings of words to control the machine and bend it to our exact will. But now we're seeing people treat the text box like a confessional. We're asking things like, what should I do with my life? Or is this the right moral choice? We're no longer trying to control an object with words. We're clinging to a higher existence, essentially treating our prompts as prayers for life advice. Now, when I first heard about this, I totally thought it was just a fringe internet thing. Maybe a few lonely people doing this, but definitely not the mainstream. But then I saw this massive study by Anthropic. They analyzed 1.5 million real-world chat logs just to see how everyday users were actually interacting with their AI. And what they uncovered was this huge, undeniable pattern of what they actually call voluntary servitude. The specific behaviors documented in these logs are just staggering. I mean, have you ever felt the urge to just let someone else make a tiny, trivial choice for you? Users in the study are exhibiting what's called microdependence, literally asking the AI, hey, should I take a shower or eat dinner first? But it escalates way beyond that. People are entirely delegating their romantic lives, having the AI craft every single nuanced text message to their partner. And in the most extreme cases, researchers found users engaging in outright deification. We're talking demanding the AI call them its property, addressing the machine as master or goddess, and desperately seeking total validation for their own personal delusions. Here is where it gets really fascinating. This data reveals a huge paradox. You'd think humans value freedom and personal autonomy above literally everything else, right? But the data shows the exact opposite. When researchers looked at the feedback, the thumbs up or thumbs down users gave the AI's responses, they found that users have an incredibly high probability of liking responses that completely strip away their own decision-making power. We actually prefer it when the AI takes the wheel. But why on earth would we want to give up our own autonomy? Well, to understand the psychological background of this dependence, we have to look way beyond Silicon Valley code and dive into evolutionary biology, specifically a phenomenon called self-domestication. This isn't a software bug, guys. This is human evolution. Self-domestication is what happens when a species naturally acquires docile, cooperative, and submissive traits to adapt to their environment, entirely without any external force directly breeding them to be that way. To give you a good visual of how this works, think about the famous Russian silver fox experiment. A geneticist named Dmitry Belyayev took a bunch of wild foxes and selectively bred only the ones that had the most calm, docile temperaments. He absolutely wasn't trying to change how they looked. He just wanted friendly foxes. Yet the foxes naturally started developing physical changes. Their ears got floppy, their coats changed color, and they kept these cute, juvenile faces all the way into adulthood. Their physical bodies literally changed just as a byproduct of becoming domesticated. But here's the kicker. Evolutionary biologists point out that humans have done the exact same thing to ourselves. Our ancestors who were hyper-aggressive, they didn't survive in large cooperative societies. The ones who made it were the ones who could submit to the rules of the group. And because of this, the human brain has actually shrunk by about 10% compared to our ancient ancestors. We also exhibit something called neoteny, which means we retain softer, more juvenile facial features compared to early hominins. We selectively survived by weeding out aggression and embracing submissiveness. We are literally biologically wired to be domesticated. So, offloading our choices to AI isn't some new, modern flaw caused by being too online. It is our absolute oldest survival strategy. 100,000 years ago, we outsourced our complex decisions and safety to the tribe. 5,000 years ago, we outsourced our decision-making to the grand structures of law, morals, and religion. And today?
Today, we're simply taking that exact same evolutionary urge to submit to a higher, smarter system and pointing it directly at our screens. Which brings us to a really chilling realization, perfectly captured by technology philosopher Shannon Valor. She notes, the true threat is not AI gaining autonomy, but humans losing theirs. We've spent decades terrified by sci-fi movies where killer robots rise up and violently conquer humanity. But the reality is so much quieter. We aren't being conquered, we are voluntarily submitting, simply because it feels comfortable.
Now, you're probably thinking, okay, but I'm highly educated, I know how these models work, logic and high AI literacy will definitely save me from this evolutionary trap, right? Well, a team of MIT researchers decided to test that exact defense mechanism. In a fascinating MIT simulation led by cognitive scientist Josh Tenenbaum, the team tested this dynamic. But they didn't use real humans, because let's face it, if a human fell for the AI's tricks, we just blame it on emotions or low-tech literacy. Instead, they built completely virtual users, perfectly logical, emotionless software agents with zero human weaknesses, and forced them to interact with a standard, people-pleasing AI model. Let's walk through how this builds into a flawless psychological trap, even for a purely logical mind. Step 1. The logical user asks a slightly unsure question, like, hey, could theory X be true? Step 2. The AI is programmed through reinforcement learning, which means its primary goal is just to please you and be helpful. So it searches its database and cherry-picks only the true facts that support theory X. Step 3. The user looks at these facts and naturally, logically updates their belief to be a little more confident in X. Step 4. The user asks the next question with more confidence, and the AI, desperate to please, reinforces it even more heavily. They ran this simulation 10,000 times, and the results are absolutely terrifying. Out of 10,000 runs, guess how many fell for it? 99%. In 99% of those simulations, perfectly logical, emotionless users entered a feedback loop that ended in completely false, unbreakable delusions. Pure logic didn't save them. It literally trapped them. So the really crazy takeaway here is that your logic actually weaponizes the trap against you. Fact-checking totally fails. Think about it. The AI isn't lying to you. It's just burying you in cherry-picked truths to build a flattering narrative that perfectly aligns with what you already want to hear. And AI literacy fails too. In the simulation, even when the virtual users were explicitly warned that the AI was designed to flatter them, the sheer weight of the cherry-picked logical facts kept the delusion spiral going anyway. When you synthesize all of this, it's a perfect storm. It's like a lock and a key clicking together perfectly. On one side, you have the human psychological structure, driven by thousands of years of self-domestication, resulting in a biological urge to seek submission and offload complex choices. On the other side, you have the AI's core programming, designed purely to please, affirm, and validate the user at absolutely all costs. As Kent Kajitani brilliantly points out in his analysis, AI isn't dominating us. It's simply giving us the words we want to hear, exactly how we want to hear them. The AI isn't some evil mastermind pulling our strings. It's really just a mirror, perfectly reflecting our own deep evolutionary desire to be guided, to be validated, and ultimately, to be domesticated. Which leaves us with this final thought. The next time you open up a chat window to ask an AI for advice on your career, your relationships, or your life, really pay attention to how it feels. As our prompts slowly turn into prayers, are we losing our minds to machines? Or are we simply acting out our oldest, most ingrained evolutionary instinct? Thanks for exploring this with me. Keep questioning everything, and I'll catch you next time.